Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and a very good evening to you all. I hope you're all well and keeping safe during this time. Please wear your masks, follow social distancing protocol, and get vaccinated as soon as possible. My name is Mashal Khan, Education USA Advisor based in the US Educational Foundation in Pakistan. I'm a graduate of Syracuse University, New York, with a master's in teaching and curriculum. With me, I have my colleagues Isma Aslam, Syed Asad Ali Shah, and Raja Sohaib Jahangir. We welcome you all to the first session of our week-long virtual pre-departure orientation, organized for students who apply to US institutions and are heading out primarily in the fall of 2021. Congratulations to you all on receiving an acceptance from US University and getting admitted. You all have worked very hard. In order to help you prepare for your departure, we have organized daily sessions for you from Monday to Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Pakistan time. We will be covering topics such as preparation and arrival in the USA, cultural adaptation and student life in the US classroom culture separately for both undergraduate and graduate students, and wrap the week with the current student and alumni panel discussion. Today, we are here to help you understand the pre-departure information, your preparation and arrival in the USA. Please feel free to drop in your questions in the Q&A section. We encourage that you ask questions exclusively related to today's session, that is pre-departure and or post-arrival, as we will be discussing other topics over the next few days. So you will have the opportunity to ask other questions in our upcoming sessions. Now, as mentioned in our confirmation email that we sent out to you, we want to encourage your participation, which is why we have included a quiz at the end of our presentation. Winners will be winning these fabulous prizes. Asad, if you could please show the slide. We are giving away wireless earbuds, fitness tracker, and portable speaker. One participant can only win one prize throughout the PDO week. A few housekeeping rules before we begin. Next slide, please. The session will run for approximately 1 hour. The session will be recorded and posted on Facebook at a later date. Questions will be addressed towards the end of the presentation. Use the Q&A box to leave your questions or comments. The questions for our quiz are taken from today's presentation, so make sure you are listening to us and our presenters very carefully. To participate, you should have already sent us a scanned copy of your I-20 or DS 2019. Winners will get to take the prize only if they have submitted their I-20 or DS 2019 beforehand. We have 2 questions in the quiz section. One winner can only answer 1 question. Good luck to you all. We are very excited. Before we begin, a little bit about who we are. Next slide, please. Education USA is a global network under the US Department of State made up of 425 international student advising centers in more than 175 countries. We are your official source to US higher education through Education USA advisors, working with advisees to provide updated, comprehensive, and unbiased information on higher education in the state. In Pakistan, we are part of the United States Educational Foundation in Pakistan. Next slide, please, which is also known as the Fulbright Commission in the country. USEFP promotes mutual understanding between the people of Pakistan and the people of United States through educational and cultural exchange. We have offices in Islamabad, Lahore, and Karachi, but are available for any student that needs support or advising throughout Pakistan virtually through email and call. Given the current pandemic situation, Education USA Pakistan is completely virtual, so you can easily access our advising services and sessions online. Other than advising, USEFP also has a programs department that administers multiple fully funded programs, including the Fulbright Scholarship, and has an authorized prometric testing center at all 3 centers. You can find more details on our website, usefp.org. Coming back to our session, as mentioned, our topic under discussion today is pre-departure information, preparation and arrival in the USA. And to present on this, we have invited 2 very special guests, professionals in the field, Mr. Nicholas Parker, Consular Officer at the US Embassy, Pakistan, and Ms. Danielle Clarizio, who is the Assistant Director of the Office of International Education, University of Wisconsin-Stout. Next slide, please. Nicholas Parker was previously a Consular Officer in Brussels, Belgium. Before joining the US Department of State, he got his MA in International Affairs at American University and his BA in Classics from UC Berkeley. Nick will be talking about applying for the US student and exchange visitors visa, all the legalities involved, and maintaining your student status on campus. Next slide, please. Ms. Danielle Clarizio is responsible for all aspects of international student experience at her university, including pre-arrival planning and information, new student arrival orientation, immigration advising, international student employment, social programming, and much more. Today, Danielle will be providing information that you need to keep in mind as you arrive on your US campus. We thank both presenters for taking out the time. If you have questions during the session, please feel free to use the Q&A section. We will try to include as many of your questions as possible towards the end of the presentation. I would now hand it over to Nick to begin his presentation. Over to you, Nick.
Thank you. So I actually didn't know you went to Syracuse. I interviewed 2 people going to Syracuse today. So today I'm going to be talking about US visas, both the F and the J visa. They're very similar. The F visa is for students. The J visa is for cultural exchange. That often includes people going for research scholarships or going for a student program. Next slide, please. So what is a visa? A visa is a non-immigrant visa. It's the permission to approach the United States border and attempt entry. That means a visa basically gets you on a plane that can go to the United States, and then it's up to Customs and Border Patrol to let you into the United States. Like I mentioned, there's an F visa and a J visa that we're talking about today. An F visa, student visa, J visa, exchange visa. Next slide, please. The qualifications. So the first step is something that everyone, it sounds like, on here did. You get accepted to a US I-20 or DS-2019 accepting institution. You got accepted into school. Great. The next is you have to have a strong command of the English language or be enrolled in a program that will help enhance your English language before you start your studies. You also have to have adequate finances. At least during the visa interview, you have to be able to show that you can sustain your finances for 1 year of study, but you should have a plan for how you're going to pay for your entire studies. And then just have proof that you plan to go home. Next slide, please. J visa, very similar. English language, acceptance into a DS 2019 sponsor, adequate finances. You have to be qualified for whatever program you're applying to. So if you're a student, you just have to show that you're going to be able to do the studies. If you are a postdoc researcher, you have to show that you had your doctorate degree, and then the proof to return to your country. See, they're already very similar. So next, please. How do you apply for an F or J visa in Pakistan? So I'll go over all of this. This is a lot of information. If anyone has any questions, the easiest way to find out information is to go to either the US Embassy's website, we have consular services on the website, or to go to travel.state.gov. All the information that I talked about today can be found at both of those places. Next slide, please. So the step 1 is to get your I-20. It sounds like you all already did that because you had to have proof in order to start this program. But again, you have to choose a school, apply, get accepted, and then provide proof of funding. For COVID times, normally you'll have to have your original I-20 or DS 2019. That has been suspended because of COVID. Now all you have to have is an electronic copy that you bring with you to the embassy. And then you also have to pay your SEBIS fee. There's a link here that's through the Department of Homeland Security. You have to have proof of that before you interview for the visa. And then very, very, very important, make sure that you travel with your I-20 or DS 2019. The Customs and Border Patrol is going to ask for it at the port of entry. So you have to make sure that you have a copy with you. Next slide, please. For J visas, there is something that's called INA 212E. Most people know this as the 2-year home country physical presence requirement. So if your exchange program is funded by the government, if you're going for medical education or training, or you're going for specialized knowledge or skills, which is very particular based on country, and it's found on a website somewhere if you're curious, then you have to return for your home country for 2 years before you apply for an HLK or legal permanent resident status visas. So basically, if you are going to train to be a medical doctor in the United States, you're going on a J visa, and then you want to apply for an H visa to work in the United States later, you have to return home for 2 years. Otherwise, you would have to get a waiver from the Department of Homeland Security. But that is way past your studies, and you don't need to know that now, but it's something just for you to be aware of in case you're applying for a J visa. Next slide, please. Step 2, you complete the online visa application. You can apply for up to 120 days before the start of your I-20 program for F visas. You go to this website to complete the application, you make a payment, and then you schedule your appointment. If you have any questions about how to get here, you can always go to the US Embassy's website. There are a lot of visa services out there that are Googleable, and they have ads that usually show up at the top. Please do not use these services. Sometimes you will end up paying a lot more money than you have to. The most straightforward way is to always go through the State Department's website or the US Embassy's website. That way you know that you're going to the right place and paying the right fees. Next, please. The next step is to prepare your documents for the visa interview. Like I said, you have to have your I-20 or your DS 2019. If you don't have the original, like I said, because of COVID, you can have the electronic copy, just print it out and bring it with you. Make sure that you have your SEVIS receipt, the payment that you had to make that I mentioned before. These ones, it's good to have it with you for the interview. You have your academic results or qualifications for the program and the proof of payment. A consular officer during the interview may or may not ask for it, but it's always better to be over-prepared than under-prepared. Next slide, please. The visa interview. Be prepared, be on time, be professional. Think about the questions before you get there and be honest. I can say that the best way to prepare is to not over prepare also. Know what you're going to school for, know why you want to go to this school, but we're not looking for you know, how your school is ranked based on US news reports. We just want to know, you know, are you a student? Are you going to school? Why do you want to go to this school, and how are you going to be able to pay for it? We may or may not ask for documents. That's okay. Don't be nervous about that. Just have a conversation at the interview. Next slide, please. Traveling to the United States. Like I said, you have to have an approved visa, but a visa is only permission to travel to the United States. Then you have to have your visa and your I-20 or your DS 2019, and then you present those to the Customs and Border Patrol. They're the ones who are going to admit you or not to the United States. Make sure that you're only traveling up to 30 days before your start date, because that's the only time that you're allowed to enter the United States. And then have your DSO's contact information and present that all to the Customs and Border Patrol officer. They're going to let you know how long you could stay in the United States for. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And then if you are arriving after the start date on your I-20 or DS-19, get an extension letter from your school and have them update your SEVIS info. SEVIS is the online record of when your program is starting, if you paid your fees, all of that. That has to be updated for both the Department of State giving you your visa and the Department of Homeland Security letting you enter the United States. We are more flexible because of COVID, but if you show up to the US border and your program started a month ago and you had nothing that says that you're allowed to do that, you might get into some problems because they're going to think you're not actually here for your studies. Okay. Next slide, please. Maintaining legal status. So when you enter the United States, Customs and Border Patrol will stamp your passport and say that you're allowed to stay typically for the duration of status. So it's as long as you maintain legal status as a student or a research scholar or et cetera in the United States. You want to check in with your designated school official when you get to the United States and arrive at school. You have to, for F visas, you have to maintain a full course of study, at least 12 credits or semesters per program. Again, I believe that's a little bit more flexible because of COVID, but you want to make sure that you check in with your DSO to make sure that that's the case. Especially when it comes to the only one online course allowed per semester. I know that a while ago that it changed a little bit. I'm not sure if that's still the case, so your DSO is the person to talk to. And again, if classes are difficult, talk to the DSO. Honestly, they're going to be your best contact for while you're in the United States. Next, please. For F visa for working in the United States is a little bit different for F visas and J visas. For F visas, work is only authorized by your DSO or USCIS. USCIS is the Immigration Services of the Department of Homeland Security. So you have to be authorized to work in the United States. Typically, on average, if F visas, you're only allowed to work on campus or in, I think, particular internships. But you can't go, work at McDonald's, for example. That's not going to be allowed. If you do need more time to complete your program, talk to your point of contact or the DSO. And then once your visa is complete, you can either do OPT, which is optional practical training. It's basically a job that you can get after your degree is complete in order to get more training for the degree that you sought. Or you can stay in the United States for up to 60 days for an F visa and 30 days for a J visa after your studies are complete. But make sure that you are leaving the United States after that time, because otherwise you can get into trouble if you wanted to apply for a visa down the road. Next slide, please. So work permission during an F1 status, allowed to work on campus only, part-time during school, up to 20 hours a week, and then full-time during US holidays. Work is meant to supplement your primary source of funding and not be your primary source of funding. So what I mean by that is if you apply for a US visa and you say, I am going to work in the library and this is how I'm going to pay for my entire studies, that's not allowed. But if you are going and you're a PhD student and you have a graduate assistantship, and that's going to help you pay for tuition, that is allowed. So you basically just have to be able to explain how you're able to pay for school, but you should not rely on-campus work to be your only source of funding. Like I said, can't work at McDonald's. If you do have an internship, you need to have permission, usually from your DSO first. And then J visa holders, like I said, they're a little bit different. You are allowed to get compensation if it's part of your program. So a lot of research scholars are able to get some funding and receive income from that. It's allowed on a J visa, not an S visa. Next, please. The length of your visa. So the first bullet point is a little bit misleading. You have two different validities that you think of when you think of your visa. First is how long is your visa valid for? That's going to be printed on your visa. It depends on a lot of things. It depends on your country of origin. It's based on reciprocity between the United States and that country. It depends on the situation and the visa interview, but that's going to be printed on your visa. The other thing is the duration of status. So once you enter the United States, that's what Customs and Border Patrol is going to stamp in your passport and say you are allowed to stay in the United States for the duration of your status, your student status. And like I said before, you can remain in the United States you can remain in the United States after your visa expires as long as you are in status. So for example, if you only had a 1-month visa, I don't know why you would have a 1-month visa, but that's okay. If you have a 1-month visa, you can enter the United States, and as long as you don't depart the United States, and as long as you are in status, you're allowed to remain in the United States. However, if you do depart the United States and your visa is expired, you'll have to go get a new visa before you can join your program again. When your visa is valid, you can enter and exit the United States as many times as you want. So if you have a 2-year visa, it's multiple entries. Yep, come in and out, that's totally fine. And like I said, if your visa does expire, you'll have to get a new one before re-entering the United States. And each time you travel in and out of the United States, you have to have that copy of your I-20 or your DS-2019 with you every single time. Some people find it better to staple it into their passport so they don't lose it. And then always check with your DSO or point of contact on your SEVIS status before traveling. Like I mentioned before, that SEVIS status, that's what the Department of State and the Department of Homeland Security uses as the definitive source for your status in the US. So if that's expired and you try and come and get a visa, you'll have to get that sorted out before your visa is granted. Next slide, please. dependents, what we mean by dependents are spouses and children typically. Usually bring a birth certificate or a marriage certificate with you to the visa interview. They are allowed to come on F and J visas. They have to apply for their own visas using their own passports and their own I-20s or TS 2019s. So when you make your application and you have a dependent that you want to travel with, they have to have their own application too with all the same documents. Just because you are granted a visa does not mean that your dependents are guaranteed to be given a visa. They have their own application process. That said, it might be a good time to mention is just because you're accepted into a university program does not mean you're guaranteed to get a visa. That will be determined at the visa interview. It's based on your interview and your application. Each person's circumstances are differently. There's no one size fits all. And so just like you aren't guaranteed a visa, your dependents are not guaranteed a visa either. And dependents of on an F2 visa, so dependents of F visa holders, they cannot work while in the United States. J2 visa holders, they can work in the United States, but they have to get authorization from the Department of Homeland Security before they start working. Next slide, please. If you do have any questions, I will be here at the end to answer some. You can also go to the studyinthestates.dhs.gov. You can go to travel.state.gov, which is the US Department of State's main website, or you can go to Embassy Islamabad's website as well. There is a section for consular and visa questions. One of the biggest takeaways, I said it earlier, you do not need to pay anyone to help you find a college or prepare your documents. You do not need to pay very high fees that you find online to help you get a visa or prepare documents. US EFP educational advising is free. I believe that the visa costs $165 US. The SEVIS fee, I think it's 200 and something dollars. If you are paying $400 US for a visa, that is too much. Make sure that you are just going through the US Embassy's website to look for visa fees. And with that, I'll turn it over.
All right, thank you, Nick. My name is Danielle Clarizio, and I'm the Assistant Director for International Student and Scholar Services at the University of Wisconsin-Stout. I, as we say, wear a number of hats. So I have many different jobs or many different parts of my the job that I do here at the university and in my profession. I am the person who on your campuses would be communicating with you about your pre-arrival information, also information during the semester, as well as information for beyond your studies. So people like me are here to support you really throughout the duration of your experience as a visiting student or scholar. I also have two very important roles that Nick mentioned quite frequently in his presentation. I am a designated school official, or DSO. I'm also an ARO, so an alternate responsible officer. A DSO is somebody who assists F1 students, and an ARO or RO is somebody who assists J1 students. So regardless of which capacity you are coming to your campus in, there will be somebody like me on your campus who is there to support you and answer your questions about your visa or your status at any point during your stay. But today we're primarily going to focus on things you need to consider before you depart for the United States, and sort of those first days and things that you should be prepared for when you actually arrive. So we're going to start with preparing for your departure. Your new school is going to be sending you information. I am sending my new students information all of the time, right? And you should be getting some of this from your institution. And I caution you that you should read it all, right? I know that it's a lot of information, but it exists for a reason. And that reason is to help you. And you might think it's easier for me to just email this person and ask them my question, but we do this all the time. This is our job. So we know what information you need before you arrive, and you can save yourself a lot of anxiety and a lot of worry by simply reading the information that your institution is sending to you. You want to look especially for certain information, such as university housing or accommodation information. I would definitely recommend that you know where you're going to be living before you arrive in the United States. I feel like every year I have some students who turn up and they're like, oh, and help me find a place to live. And that's not something that there's always time to do when you're in the middle of orientation and welcoming maybe hundreds of new international students. Please take time to read the information from your university about what university housing options are available, or contact them to find out about finding accommodation in the local area. You also need to be looking for your arrival dates and orientation dates. Your university may set certain dates that they request your arrival on. The reason they do that is so that they can better help you with your arrival. So if your university says we want you to arrive between this day and this day, well, then they probably also have a plan to support you with getting from the airport or picking you up from, say, a shuttle or train or bus stop, so that you can then make your move onto campus a bit more efficiently. They will also have orientation dates, and your orientation might sound like something that is optional and might be at your institution technically an optional program, but I would strongly encourage that you plan to attend your orientation, as that is where your university is going to put a lot of energy in helping to ensure that you have a good foundation, not just from an immigration standpoint, but socially and academically and culturally as well. You also should be looking for information that requests you to confirm your transportation or your travel plans. Many universities will ask for information about your flight numbers or your arrival dates or times. And again, this is so that they can assist you. As soon as you have your travel plans confirmed, be looking to share that information with your university. Some universities, especially very large universities, might not require this from you, but if you are going to a smaller institution, you might be expected to provide this information, and the sooner you can provide it, the better it is for planning purposes. And you should also look for information about placement tests or course enrollment. Many institutions will allow you to enroll in courses prior to your arrival on campus. But every institution handles this process differently, okay? Know that you might have a friend going to one institution that has all of their classes already registered for now, right? But your institution maybe will tell you you will register for classes during orientation, okay? Look at the information that they're sending you, and if you're not sure, reach out to your institution to make sure that you know what you need to do prior to your arrival. Some institutions will also require placement tests before you can complete your enrollment. Sometimes these are available online. Sometimes this is something you have to do when you get to campus. So read your information carefully so that you know how to prepare. When it comes to packing for your journey, I would say that this is one of the things that costs or that gives students the most anxiety. They want to make sure they bring everything they're ever going to need. But the problem is you may only have 1 or 2 suitcases to do that. Depending on the duration of your stay or your expected stay in the United States, it may not be possible to bring everything. There are some things specific things that we like to remind students to consider bringing. Obviously, clothes are a good place to start. You should know that in the United States, especially on a university campus, most students wear a sort of casual style of dress day in, day out. It is not uncommon to see students in your classes wearing sweatpants, right? So you may be used to a more formal style of dress when you go to school, but here, t-shirts, jeans, sweatshirts, sweatpants, sometimes even pajamas are pretty common to see. So you might want to think about that before or while you're packing your suitcases. Shoes are something that seem like a strange thing to point out, but you might find that shoes are very expensive in the United States, especially if you're looking for high quality or leather shoes. So it may be a good idea to just bring these things from home, bring extra pairs of shoes so that you have all the shoes that you need while you're here. This is especially the case if you have very small or very big feet. You might find it difficult to find shoes in your size and at a price that suits you. If you have any national clothing or national dress, we would always encourage students to bring this. There may be cultural activities or opportunities for you to wear that during your stay. And it's a great thing to be able to share with your American communities that you'll be entering. And of course, bringing any sort of items of interest, right? So if you have souvenirs or photos from home or things that will remind you of home, these are nice for you personally while you're here, but they also give you a nice opportunity to talk about home and to share home with the people that you'll be meeting in the United States. And then one more thing that you'll want to prepare, especially if you're like me and you wear glasses or contacts, you'll want to bring your prescription. And if possible, an extra pair of glasses and contacts. The reason for this is that most US health insurance programs or plans that you'll be enrolled in will not have a vision component. So if you need to get your eyes tested, you'll have to pay for that. So if your glasses were to break and you needed a test and so on, you would just be incurring additional costs that may be avoidable if you already have extra materials at home. Now, these are some of the things to consider, but of course you can pack what you feel is appropriate for you to bring for your journey. We do make some recommendations to students, though, when considering this. Number one is to check the limits for your baggage with your airline. Every airline will have different limits. So what your friend has might be different to what you have. Check with the airline, okay? You also want to double check your electrical devices. You might think it makes a lot of sense to bring, I was going to say an alarm clock. I guess most people use their phones these days, but to bring electronic devices from home might not be as sensible as it first appears. It may be easier or cheaper to just purchase those items when you're here. Leave large items in your home country. Remember, you have just 1 or 2 suitcases, right? It doesn't make sense to bring maybe like a bedspread, right? Something that might fill an entire suitcase when you can acquire that item here. You might want to also consider what shopping options will be available to you in the community that you will be residing in. Most communities in the United States have many stores. People love to shop here, right? So you will have options to acquire additional materials, clothing, etc. during the course of your program. All right. Your institution might also even arrange for shopping trips, especially early on, to help you purchase any of the additional materials or things that you need to be successful while you're in the United States. We also do have a number of secondhand or discount stores. So if you're concerned about finances, there are some very low cost options for you as well in most communities in the US. And also, you should know the climate that you're going to. The United States is a very big country, and the weather here, where I am in the upper Midwest, is very different to the weather in, say, Texas, okay? Here, we will have hard winters where there's lots of snow and ice, but very hot summers. So you kind of have to be prepared for everything. But you might be going to a climate that just has kind of one type of weather where it's always quite warm all the time. Do your research before you get here, and know, like I said, that you can always acquire additional items once you get to the United States. If you don't have good winter clothing, you can get it when you get here. Now, as Nick talked about, there are some documents you will need when you enter the United States or when you come to the port of entry. These you should carry in your carry-on bag. Do not pack these in your suitcase. They include your passport, your F1 or J1 visa, which should be in your passport, and your Form I-20 or your DS 2019. As Nick mentioned, right now, there is a bit of flexibility due to COVID, which does allow for students to enter the United States using an electronically signed DS 2019, or sorry, an electronically signed signed I-20. This is not the case for DS 2019. This should be an original document. And when we say original, we mean ink signed. So it should have an ink signature from your institution. As time goes on, the flexibility may change. So you'll need to listen to your home institution and your DSOs to make sure that your documents are being updated as needed with the times. But if you have these documents ready in your carry-on bag, it should be a pretty straightforward process for you at the port of entry. But you should know that secondary inspection, which is really just an opportunity for the border official to interview a little bit more and to review your documents with a little bit more time, this can happen pretty regularly. So when you come to the border, you may have all your documents ready and they may say, hey, let's bring you over here so we can talk a little bit more. This is pretty normal. So don't panic. You're not in trouble. This is a pretty normal part of the process. Just make sure you have the documents you need and can speak confidently about why you're coming to the United States, and the border official will assist you then. Now, of course, as we all know, the last year, there have been lots of changes due to the pandemic, and you can find some of these things, impacting your arrival into the United States. Right now, there is no sort of required quarantine when you arrive in the United States. However, your institutions or local communities may have certain things in place to ensure the safety of their community is maintained. So you will want to look into your university's arrival plan. And if you're concerned about having a quarantine, especially if you're unvaccinated, you'll definitely want to see what information they have for you so that you can best prepare for that time. Know as well that every university has a different vaccine plan, right? So some universities will say you must have a vaccine in order to study here in the fall semester. Others might say vaccines are optional. Every institution is different, okay? So you'll want to check with your university to make sure you have, or you know what you need to know regarding vaccines. I will say if you are attending an institution that does have a vaccine requirement for the fall, in most cases, I think those universities have a plan in place to assist students with getting a vaccine when they arrive on campus, okay? If you do already have a COVID vaccine, know that some universities are looking at the COVID vaccine requirement from the perspective of it needing to be a World Health Organization approved vaccine or WHO approved vaccine. Others will take any vaccine. So again, check with your institution and make sure to bring with you the documentation showing that you have been vaccinated, okay? Most institutions will not require vaccination or may not require a vaccination record generally, but with COVID right now, make sure to bring your COVID vaccination proof if you have it. As I mentioned, your university will have information about COVID on their website. This is just a little sort of snip from our university website. You go to our university and right at the top, there's a red bar for COVID information. Lots of universities have the exact same thing. So if you're unsure of quarantine and vaccine arrangements on your campus, check out your university's website as soon as possible to get the most up-to-date information. Now, when you get to campus, there may be additional COVID things in place, right? Protocols or expectations in place. So with regards to classes, you might find that classes are offered in a number of different modalities. They might be sort of normal in-person classes, they might be online, and they might be a hybrid model. Okay, so a bit of both. Right now, every university has a different plan for how they're running their fall classes. I would say for the most part, across this country, institutions are returning in the fall to something closer to normal. So much more in-person coursework, maybe some hybrid coursework, and a pretty normal amount of online coursework as would have been the case prior to the COVID pandemic. As F1 or J1 visa holders, there are certain restrictions regarding the number of online classes or hybrid classes you can take. However, there are some flexibilities right now due to COVID. The best thing to do is listen to what your DSO or your RO tells you regarding the expectations on your campus. Just because current flexibilities might allow you to take more online courses doesn't mean you will take all online courses while you are here, right? And that's because, first of all, there might not be all online courses anymore, right? But also remember, you are in the United States to engage with the culture and to be part of the communities here. It's much easier to do that in person, right, than it is to do online. You might also be expected to wear a mask. This is especially the case if you are unvaccinated. You also might find that masks are optional on your campus. Still, might not be a bad idea to wear one, especially if you are unvaccinated. There may also be additional protocols in place with regards to using hand sanitizer or wiping down surfaces or keeping distances. This will all depend on the communities that your campuses are located in. Okay, for example, for me in the state of Wisconsin, in our community, there are different protocols and different expectations than the communities just a half an hour down the road. Okay, so you'll want to see what your university has to say on this so that you can prepare for your time here. And with regards to testing, you might also find that your university requires you to have regular COVID tests while you're a student here. This is to protect you and the community that you are going to be studying in. Every university is different about this. So again, you'll want to check your university website to make sure you know what the expectations are. Know as well that sometimes this testing is provided because of federal funding. It may be the case that universities don't yet know or have a clear testing plan in place for fall because they are waiting to find out if there will be funding available for it. With regards to immunizations, I mentioned earlier that you should bring a proof of your COVID vaccination if you have it. Bring that with you when you travel, but also you might want to consider bringing with you a proof of any vaccination that you've received. Every institution is different as to whether or not they require this information as part of your arrival or even pre-arrival. For example, my institution does not require a vaccination record. However, we always encourage students to bring their vaccination record with them. And that is because if something should happen to you while you are here, it is much easier to access this information if you have brought it with you than to be phoning home to Pakistan to try and find out if you got this vaccine 15 years ago. Okay, it's usually just a couple of pieces of paper. You can just keep it in with your important documents, and hopefully you won't need it while you're here. But it's a good idea to have a conversation with your doctor, your family doctor, or your GP before you travel to the United States to make sure you have the vaccines that you should have before traveling to the United States. I've put on this slide a list of the CDC recommended vaccines for students who are sort of college age. So these are the ones that most American students would have by the time they enter college. You should know as well, I'm sorry, that your university may have a health center on campus, in which case they also might be able to provide vaccines during the semester should you require them. You also, if you don't have a university health center on campus, you could access vaccines in your local communities as well. And this goes for COVID vaccines. You'll want to check with your communities, but COVID vaccines will be available, I would say, for most students. If you aren't able to get one before you travel, you should be able to get them when you get to the United States. Now, students should have health insurance while they're here. J1 students, you will be required to have health insurance that is a certain level, but F1 students, there's often a little bit of flexibility. In some cases, though, your university may have a required health insurance plan for you to enroll in. These plans are usually pretty high levels of coverage at relatively low cost for that level of coverage. They might seem expensive to you, but healthcare in the United States is very, very, very expensive. So your health insurance fees will help to save you from any really shocking bills later on in your studies. You might also have the option to choose your own insurance plan. This can be very confusing. It's confusing for Americans, and we work with the system all the time. So I would definitely recommend, if your university allows you to choose your own health insurance plan, they might also have some recommendations on resources for you to help you navigate this process. Follow their guidance, follow their lead on this. If you are choosing your own, there's, like I said, it's an overwhelming process. There's a lot to consider. There is also a decent resource on internationalstudentinsurance.com that can give you a nice overview of the American healthcare system and help you to understand what needs you might be looking for in your health insurance plan. When you get to campus, there are some things you'll want to keep in mind. Obviously, you know that our universities have on-campus housing. If you do live in on-campus housing, especially as a first-year student or as a traditional undergrad student, you can expect that for the most part, your options will be traditional American dorm-style rooms, where you will share a room with a roommate, sometimes 2 or 3 roommates, and you might have a shared bathroom, but you share that bathroom with the entire floor, right? So you might have 30 people using the same bathroom area. This might be different to what you're expecting, but it is pretty common here. So while it might seem a little strange, it's also a great opportunity for you to meet people, make friends, and start forming those relationships that are going to be part of your experience while you're in the US. If you do have specific living requirements, like you require a single gender living area, you prefer to be in an alcohol-free or smoke-free area, communicate with your university housing officials. They will usually be taking your preferences, and they will be coordinating your housing assignment. So make them aware of any special needs you have so that they can best assist you based on the options that they have on campus. Food is going to be different while you're here. And you should know that in some cases, it may be difficult to access halal food. So you should know that many universities will have pretty robust vegetarian and vegan options, and alongside our normal non-halal options. You can reach out to your university dining officials to learn more about what options might be available for you if you are looking for a halal diet. Every university will have different options, so check the information with your university. And also know that there are many, many, many more resources available for students on our campuses than just housing and dining. As students, you will often have access, and usually free access, to a lot of different things, such as fitness and recreation facilities, campus social activities, technology rentals, renting computers or projectors or things that you might need for classes, and also mental and physical health services. That list, I could go on and on about all the different resources available to you, but attending your orientation and reading the information that your university is putting out to you will help you to get a better idea of all the different ways your university can assist you while you're in the US. Now, your International Student Office is going to be one of your best resources while you're here, especially initially, as we often are the people that assist you with orientation. So you would use our offices for things like support with cultural adjustment. If you're having a bit of difficulty adjusting to life in the United States, talk to us, right? If you're having issues with your English language adjustment, if you're finding it overwhelming to be in an English classroom all the time, talk to your International Student Office. They'll be able to point you in the direction of resources. We, of course, do immigration advising. That is what our primary function on campus. And we also can answer your questions about employment, right? As you know, with your visas, there's different restrictions and options available to you while you're here. So reach out to us before you start working anywhere, okay? Contact us. And many, 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 many other things. Okay, my job every day is it's a different collection of things. So it will be the same at your university, wherever you're going. Now, your office, like my office, might have a different name. Like my office is not called the International Student Office. We're the Office of International Education. But I've put some common names for offices like us on the slide here, so you can maybe get an idea of where you would go to find these resources while you're on your campus. Well, that looks like I've reached the end here. It looks like it might be quiz time. So I will hand it over to our team, Education USA, and let them take over to do the quiz, and I'll be happy to answer your questions when we get to beyond the quiz.
Thank you, Nick and Danielle, for a comprehensive presentation. If you go, we can go to the next slide, please. Do you want to cover this portion, Danielle?
Yeah, it looks like, I knew there was something else. It looks like we got a little slide inserted in there. So just to wrap up on my end, there are just a few things I want you to remember. I mean, obviously, I've mentioned this a few times during my presentation. Every school is different, right? The information that your friends are getting, going to a different institution, may be different to the information that you're getting, right? Listen to your institution. Just as Nick talked about how there are lots of services that will happily take your money to answer your questions or help you and provide you with an extra special service, they still might not be the best resource for you, right? Work with your university. If you have questions or unsure, your university will give you the best information for your circumstances going to your institution. And remember, as I said, there's people like me who are at your school to help you. At my office, it's really just me and sometimes one other person to help international students. But depending on the size of your campus, there may be a small team of people who are there to help you. So learn what your resources are and reach out to them, but also make sure that you are reading your email and checking the messages that your university is giving you before you reach out, right? There's a lot of information already available for you. And I think perhaps most importantly, remember that you're going to a new country, okay? You're going to a place that is not home. It's a different experience, right? You're going to be challenged in new ways. It is not always going to be easy, but you are going to have the opportunity to make new friends, try new things, and have some new experiences, right? In order to make the best of this time, please make sure to use the resources that are available to you on your campus, but also make sure to take your time to go to your new student orientation and take part in those activities that are offered very early on. This is where you can make some of your best friendships, your best relationships, and those will be there to help support you in addition to your campus resources while you're a student on your campus. All right, here we are.
All right, now we have the question slide up. Thank you, Nick and Danielle, for a comprehensive presentation. We really appreciate all the details that you have provided to our outbound students. As promised, we will now be taking questions from our audience. Please feel free to drop in your questions in the Q&A section. We encourage that you ask questions exclusively related to today's session, that is pre-departure and or post-arrival, as we will be discussing other topics over the next few days. So you'll have the opportunity to ask other questions in our upcoming sessions. So Nick and Danielle, are you both ready for the questions? Should I go ahead?
Yep.
Okay, so our first question is, which COVID vaccines, and I know that some of the things you've already addressed during your presentation, but just for general remembrance, we're going to go over some of the questions. Which COVID vaccines are approved in the USA? Any specific policy about getting vaccinated before traveling to the US? One of the attendees asking.
I think that'll be for me. So currently in the US, the vaccines that are in circulation, the ones that we are being administered, are the Moderna, the Pfizer, and the Johnson & Johnson. Now, your university will likely be accepting vaccines that are beyond those three. That's why I mentioned earlier the World Health Organization, or WHO, approved vaccines. That list changes I won't say frequently, but it does change, and it could change tomorrow, right? But right now, I believe that list contains the three that I just mentioned: Moderna, Pfizer, and Johnson & Johnson, or the Janssen vaccine. It also includes currently the Sinopharm and Sinovac, and AstraZeneca. I do not know the status of the Serum Institute of India vaccine as it relates to the WHO approvals. I don't think it's yet been approved, and also Sputnik 5 has not yet been approved. That may change. Like I said, it could change tomorrow. It could certainly change, prior to a student's arrival on campus. If you did get a vaccine, but it's not a WHO approved vaccine and you arrived to the United States, like I said, make sure to bring your proof of vaccine with you. Your local health officials will be able to assist you in either getting another vaccine, right, that will be approved, or if you are in a situation where maybe you've got a 2-shot sequence and you've only taken 1 shot before you travel to the United States, your local health officials will be able to assist you in figuring out which locally available option you can use to finish your sequence. This is kind of it's just a strange time. So the best thing you can do is, in my opinion, I would encourage you to get your vaccines. We're encouraging students to get your vaccine. There is no requirement that you are vaccinated in order to enter the United States, but it's a good practice to have, right? Like I said, though, if you're unable to get it, there'll be options when you get here. And if you have gotten it, make sure to bring your proof of vaccination with you, and then we can assist you as needed when you get here.
Thank you, Danielle. Next question is possibly for Nick. How can someone schedule an earlier visa appointment which is not too close to their start date?
So unfortunately right now, because of the global pandemic, there have been a lot of restrictions that have been placed on embassies and consulates around the world. We are also adhering to COVID protocols. That means that we can only have a certain amount of people in the waiting room. People have to be 2 meters apart. They have to wear masks. And because of that, it's made scheduling extremely difficult. And so right now, the embassy in Islamabad particularly is prioritizing all F and J visas. We're trying to get people to school as soon as they can, but because of the restrictions, we're only able to do a certain amount of visa interviews per day. And unfortunately, people are going to have to wait for when they get their appointments. We're not able to expedite these appointments any more than we already have. So it's really important for you to work with your universities to be flexible with start times if possible. I saw a number of questions also here in the Q&A in regards to administrative processing. Sometimes a visa application does require more processing than can be done during the visa interview at the window. In those cases, we have to do additional administrative processing. It's different for each person. It can take days. It could also take weeks or months. There's no way for us to know while we're at the window because each case is different. And unfortunately, we are not able to expedite those based on someone's university start times either. So it's very important whenever you do have your visa interview that you work with your university or your program to be flexible with those start dates. We're doing the best that we can, but unfortunately, we just can't accommodate the need that's happening right now.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nick.
Can I actually?
Danielle, yes, please. Yes.
Sorry, can I actually just add to that? If you are put into administrative processing, please do let your university know that you've received that that's an update for you. We don't necessarily have more information we can give you, but once we know that detail, we're in a better place to be able to assist you with regards to adjusting start dates or timelines for you. Also, I wanted to just sort of piggyback off of that. Nick, I often will get requests from students saying, oh, I need an earlier start time. DSO, can you write me a letter so that I can give that to the embassy? Is that something you would recommend students do?
No, it will not help you. when we say we're doing the best that we can, we are literally doing the best that we can. We are maxed out on visa interviews. If you ask an expedited appointment, I've already seen, I think, 3 questions with a similar question about, well, my program start date's coming up soon. Every single person is in this situation. We know that schools start in August and early September. Like I said, we're doing the best that we can, but we can only interview a certain amount of people per day, especially during COVID. And so you'll just have to be patient, and I apologize for that, but it's just the situation that we're in the world.
And it's happening at all embassies.
It's happening
everywhere.
at all embassies
It's
and
not just
consulates.
Pakistan.
Yeah. Yep, that's correct.
And please know, your universities, we have limited control. We can never call the embassy and say, hey, get this person in tomorrow, please. We're all doing the best that we can.
Well, thank you so much,
Thanks.
Danielle, for bringing that up. That's a very important question, actually, and we also get this question quite a lot. So thank you very much for bringing that. My next question is, do individuals on J visa need to obtain permission from university to pursue internship, not on campus?
So on a J program, generally speaking, your employment options for off-campus are limited to post-completion of your studies, which is academic under something called academic training. It is officially possible to do this during your program, but you'll want to contact your responsible officer or your alternate responsible officer to review that opportunity. It's complicated, and I don't want to say yes or no either way here. So talk to your ARO, and they'll want more details about your internship, and with that information they'll be able to best assist you. But generally speaking, on a J program, off-campus employment is usually not possible until the end of your program.
Thank you. Next question is, how much time can one stay after their program's end date if the visa has already expired?
So it doesn't matter if the visa is expired. It is when the completion of your status is complete. So I saw another question on there. If you have a 4-year visa, if you have a 5-year visa and a 4-year program, can you stay an extra year? You cannot. It is when your program is complete. So if your program is done on June 30th of 2020 or 2021, you can stay up to 60 days after that completion date, even if your visa is for another 2 years. It's whenever your status is complete.
But it's different for Fs and Js. For Fs, you have 60 days. Yeah. For Js, you have 30 days.
Correct, yeah. So it's important that based on your visa type, based on the completion of status, you depart the United States in a timely manner. So yeah, it's not about, it's less about the visa dates. It's more about when your program is actually finished. And that's also different if, like, you do OPT, for example. If you do OPT after you're done with school, optional practical training, that is continuation of status. So.
All right, thank you, Nick. That makes sense.
Communicate with your DSO if you're not sure. That's what we're here for.
Very important.
All right, our next question is, if I have a relative in the US living in a different state than where my school is, can I go directly to them before the course start date?
Nick, you can start if you'd like.
Well, for visa purposes, sure, you can enter the United States up to 30 days before the start of your program, as long as you can communicate that with the Customs and Border Patrol agent. If they ask about it, sure, I don't see why not. As long as you're following all COVID regulations and protocols, because that relative state might have different regulations than where your school or university is. So you have to make sure that you're following whatever the regulations are wherever you're traveling to.
Yeah, there aren't a lot of restrictions for people to travel between states in the US, but there may be different protocols and regulations in place in these different places. Know as well that your university may have its own quarantine plan in place, especially for unvaccinated students. So you might think, oh, well, if I have to quarantine for 10 days when I get to campus, if I go and stay with a relative for those 10 days, then I go to campus, then I don't have to quarantine. That might not be the case. Communicate with your international student office, the folks sending you information about arrivals and quarantines, to find out how decisions like that might impact you in your travel plans this fall.
Thank you. Next question is, do I need to buy my health insurance for myself and my dependents before I arrive on campus?
Probably not. In some cases, your universities will automatically enroll you in health insurance. So, for example, at my institution, we enroll our students prior to their arrival, and their insurance plan actually starts around the same time that they would be legally allowed to enter the United States. So about 30 days before the semester begins, so that they're covered during that time. But every university is different in how they require this. As I said, we automatically enroll our students. However, we don't enroll their dependents. We leave that up to the visa holder to decide how they're handling that situation, because it's not required for those dependents while they're here. That being said, I would certainly advise my students traveling with dependents to arrange insurance for their family members as soon as possible, whether that's prior to their arrival in the United States or shortly after they arrive, just because the sooner you have that health insurance in place, the sooner you have that additional level of protection and financial support should you require it. Let's remember, we are still in the middle of a global pandemic. So if you do get sick and you don't yet have your insurance ready, right, that's not something you're going to want or maybe be able to do while you're already sick. So the earlier you can get it done, the better.
All right, thank you. The next question is, do F1 students need to let International Student Office know if they have a paid or unpaid internship back home, like a virtual internship?
I would strongly advise they communicate with, that any student communicate with their international student office regarding any employment, just to make sure that everything is as it should be. Typically, if a student has an internship at home, if it's happening at home, that's not a problem, but there may be issues if they're in the United States doing that internship at home. So again, this is a tricky one because the circumstances of this situation may change the answer. So communicate with the International Student Office with regards to anything that is related to employment.
Thank you. Next question is, I know that we need to get tested for COVID when leaving the country, but will I be also tested upon arrival in the USA?
So currently the CDC is advising that unvaccinated individuals, when they arrive in the United States, that they participate in a self-quarantine for, I think they're saying 10 days. It changes a lot, but it's, I think 10 or 14 days, but that's a sort of self-imposed quarantine. That is an expectation that you will choose to quarantine yourself, right? However, that being said, for both unvaccinated and vaccinated individuals, when they enter the United States, the CDC guidance is that within 3 to 5 days of their arrival, they test again, just to be sure. But that's just guidance. It's not a requirement. It is just something we're encouraging. Your university as well. I mentioned like official arrival days. If there are official arrival days and there's official orientation start time, your university may have some testing set up for you within that 3 to 5 day window so that you can get that taken care of through the university. And know that because you might think, oh, well, it's not required, I don't have to go, but your university may be making decisions on your quarantine based on you taking that test during that 3 to 5 day window. So please take that test for you and your universities. Please consider taking that.
Thank you, Danielle. I think this is going to be the last question, unless we have anything else pop up. Can we get a US Social Security number before we arrive in the US?
No, no, you cannot. You must be in the United States, and you actually have to be in the United States for a certain period of time before you are eligible for to even apply for your Social Security number. Social Security Administration is separate to any of the offices that Nick or I work with on a regular basis, but I do assist students with getting Social Security cards every year. And normally what happens is, so for my campus, we have new students arrive. During new student orientation, we will talk about what students need to prepare in order to begin working. And then we help students to coordinate their trips to Social Security Administration during the first week of classes. Within that time, that's usually about, maybe 2 weeks, right, between their arrival and them going to Social Security office. That's usually enough time. I believe it's officially 10 days, but the Social Security Administration, like all of our offices, is operating under some different things right now. So know that, it may be just a 10-day wait, but it may take a little bit longer to get that appointment set up right now because of, COVID adjustments. But your international student office will be able to give you the information for setting up that appointment and getting you going. You should also know that when it comes to applying for a Social Security number, you just need an offer of a job in order to apply for that number. And that offer that you have has to be a letter. It has to be written in a letter, and it has to have a start date within, I believe it's 14 days, one way or the other, either before or after the date of your appointment. So even if you have an offer of on-campus employment right now before you arrive on campus, you should not expect that you will arrive on campus and then start working the next day. That's not going to happen.
Thank you, Danielle. Let me just check if we have any other questions. No. I think that's about it. Thank you, Nick and Danielle, for answering all the questions. I guess the key over here is that stay in touch with your university, stay in touch with your designated school official, and they'll be your best guide in getting you to the US and and answering all of your questions regarding vaccines or what the expectations are. So the key over here is stay in touch with your university. I hope this was all helpful for our attendees. Moving on, we would like to inform you of an online workshop. If you could go to the next slide, please, Danielle. Yes, so we're going to be hosting an online workshop on managing culture shock, which is being hosted by Education USA Pakistan in collaboration with Dr. Jim Robinson and Mr. Eaton. It's on July 27th from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. This 2-hour online workshop explores how an improvisational mindset can help international students navigate culture shock. So if you're interested in such a session, you can be sure to attend it. We will be sending out the registration information via email soon. So please be on the lookout for that. Once again, thank you all very much for attending the first session of our virtual pre-departure orientation. And you have the information to join our sessions on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, respectively. But we will surely send you all a reminder. Tomorrow, we will be discussing the topic of cultural adaptation and student life in the USA. So please do join us with your questions again from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. If you need to speak to an Education USA advisor, we are here for you. Please contact your assigned advisor. If you do not know who your assigned advisor is, please email your nearest center. You can check out the center emails on the slide. If you could please go to the next slide, Danielle. Here are our center email addresses. Or you can also register for our free advising services by visiting our website, educationusa.pk. We also highly encourage you to follow us on our official social media platforms. If you would go to the next slide, please, Danielle. Each of Education USA, Pakistan, USCFP, and the US Embassy to stay updated on our activities and events. Any parting words from our presenters before we formally conclude our presentation and move to the quiz?
Just go to travel.state.gov. If you do have any additional questions, I see there are lots of people who have additional questions. A lot of information can be found there, also the U.S. Embassy's website.
I would echo that if there are resources available to you. So if you do have more questions after today's presentation or later in the week, I would recommend using the resources Nick mentioned, but also reaching out to your university to see what they have to say.
All right, thank you all. Have a good evening, and we'll move on to the quiz now.